All right, good evening, everybody. It is September 10th, 2022. It is about 8:39 p.m. Eastern Time. And we are actually starting off this stream right outside the Museum of Natural History, not in Midtown Manhattan, but on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. This is the corner of West 81st Street and Columbus Avenue. Now, we were supposed to be starting this stream from 57th Street, right around Billionaires Row, but I had to come all the way up to about 86th Street and Broadway. I had to go to Barnes & Noble's to pick up a particular book. Now, if you're not following us on Twitter, you can check it out at Walks Wall Street, but I actually posted the name of the book.
I need $20 to get some food for my wife. She's pregnant, please.
Oh, dude, I don't have any cash. I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I had to come up to 86th Street and Broadway to get a particular book that I found quite interesting, and I think you guys will enjoy it as well. Now, we're not going to go into a complete deep dive book review today because I want to allow you guys some time in the chat. Maybe you want to read it, maybe you want to do some research on it yourself, but the book is called The History of the Future, and it is by Blake J. Harris. And this is actually an amazing story of how Oculus came about. Now, many people may not know this, but Oculus wasn't always a product owned by Facebook. It was actually an acquisition. Mark Zuckerberg acquired the company some time back. But the story about how Oculus actually came about is just an unbelievable American success story. But I also think the book is interesting from a different approach as it relates to M&A activity on Wall Street. So I think the reason why I wanted to, number one, get the book, I'll show you guys right now. History of the Future by Blake J. Harris. There's two reasons why I want to get the book. I already pretty much know the story, right? The story of Palmer Luckey. But as we look into the age of artificial intelligence, the age of VR and AR, I think it's going to be, I would say, a requirement to refresh and brush up on some of these most key notable technologies. And number two, obviously the channel is called Walks on Wall Street, so a lot of the times we will cover different deal flow on Wall Street in terms of M&A activity. And I think this book does a really good job of breaking down the process of how other companies go about acquiring other companies. So I won't give the whole entire thing away because it is an unbelievable story, and I think I want to let you guys, maybe read up on it. But just wanted to throw that out there. But let's see who we have in the chat here tonight, my friends. Again, we are on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. So a little bit of a different scenery. We do have to stop by the office still on 57th Street. Hopefully it's still open. I see Vinny Castellano in the chat. Arum Z is here, says, hey, Tom. Vonda Howard says first, hey, Tom, good to see you, Vonda. Philly Chai 215 says, hey, Tom. Welcome all of my friends from Philadelphia. RJ is here from Colorado, says, hola, Tom. Welcome, RJ. I see the one and only British Gray from Tampa, Florida. Welcome, British Gray. We are standing outside the Museum of Natural History, and you'll see a ton of construction, so there's going to be a lot of scaffolding. We'll cross the street. I'll show you guys. But when is the last time we actually started streaming from the Upper West Side on the live stream? I think it's probably about a half a year ago now. I think a little bit over 6 months since we've done that or started. So you could see, I believe they're building a brand new planetarium or an extension on the Museum of Natural History. It should be complete by mid-2023. As you can see all the scaffolding there. Stephanie is here, says, hey, from New York City. What's up, Stephanie? Hope you're having a fantastic day. Great start to your weekend. I see Abdullah is here from Istanbul. Welcome, Abdullah, and all of our viewers from Istanbul. I see Betty says Upper West Side is my favorite. I would agree with you, Betty. Upper West Side is my favorite as well. So much of my teenage years, college years, I'd say, I spent actually quite a bit of time up here. Right anywhere between, I'd say, 80th Street and 86th Street. I used to work right on 83rd Street between Amsterdam and Columbus. And that was actually one of my first real jobs I've had. Washing rental cars right there on 83rd Street. Now, an interesting fact about 83rd Street, if you go to West 83rd Street in between Amsterdam and Columbus Avenue, that is actually where Jerry Seinfeld's garage is. And he has all of his very famous and very expensive cars there. Sally is here, says, hey Tom, I'm here enjoying the live stream tonight. Good to see you, Sally. Paul Greenwell is here, says, hey Tom. What's up, Paul? Always a pleasure to see you. Hopefully you had a good week. Lynn says, yes, I need to go to the planetarium again. Good to see you, Lynn. Eve says, hello to all the viewers. God bless. Everybody stay safe. Thank you, Eve. Appreciate that. Cara says, greetings from Argentina. Always live with you. Good to see you, Cara. Now, if you look dead ahead in the center of your screen now, everybody, you could see the 9/11 Memorial floodlights. Now, it's unfortunate they didn't have these lights on yesterday, because if you remember from last night's live stream, we actually went all the way down to Lower Manhattan, but I think due to the issue with a lot of the birds flying into the lights, they only are going to keep it up around the day before 9/11, which is today and tomorrow. Roy S. Tom, was it before or after you were working at Express? So it was at the same time. It was at the same time. So I was doing both. I was working on the Upper West Side, and I was also working there, which was a little crazy, right? Because I was doing the night shift. I guess you can call it the night shift or the overnight shift at Express. So I would actually get in at 9 o'clock at night, and I would work till about 3 in the morning, stocking the, doing the restocking of the shelves and things like that. So this is a brand new deli that opened. If you want to go to a nice bodega, good deli up here, it's called Andy's Deli. If you rewind the stream actually a couple, maybe 2 minutes or so, you'll actually see we were right outside of Andy's Deli. But I may have to try this bodega, Green Park Deli and Pizza. Looks like it just opened. Hey, M Wall on the Run is here. Good to see you, M Wall on the Run. I see 48 says evening, Tom. Welcome. February is here. Good to see you. So everybody, friends, since this is Saturday, we don't have a specific topic to talk about. Usually Monday through Friday we have those dedicated topics, and then Sunday we do our weekly Markets a Look Ahead live stream, where we talk about all of the main events, earnings reports, and things to look forward to in the week ahead on Wall Street. But tonight I do want to cover a couple things. Yesterday, later in the day, we heard from a couple Fed presidents that made very, very strong statements in relation to monetary policy going forward. So we'll be unpacking those a little bit. And I'm going to talk about some different book recommendations that I think you guys would enjoy. Obviously, number one, as the reason why we're starting the live stream from the Upper West Side, had to go to the Barnes & Nobles to pick up this book, The History of the Future. So that is one I think you guys will enjoy, especially if you're interested in learning more about virtual reality, augmented reality, and really about the M&A business on Wall Street too. I think it does a really good job of walking through the process of how Facebook at the time, I guess now they're called Meta, right? But at the time, Facebook had acquired Oculus. I think it was about $1 billion acquisition. And the story is just so crazy. It's just so crazy. And I think it's good to sort of remind ourselves of these particular stories every now and then, as we are in a time where the news cycles can be very bleak and dull at times, maybe even depressing at times. just to remind the readers that the American dream is still alive and well, right? And you don't have to have all of these particular resources. We'll try to make a move around these guys over here. You don't necessarily have to have extreme amount of resources, access to capital to build a pretty vibrant and strong business, right? If you're passionate about a particular subject, if you enjoy what you're working on, and you just work on it over long periods of time and you stay persistent, well, you'd be surprised with what you can create. And I'm not sure if the viewers or any of you are too familiar with the story of how Oculus came about, but it's really, really incredible, right? Really incredible. You would never have thought for a second that, you know, this company would one day be acquired by Facebook, at the time Facebook, now obviously Meta, but for about $1 billion. Now, I think a particular notable investor by the name of Martin Shkreli, I believe at one point made a bid or an offer for this particular company, Oculus. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true. I remember hearing that. But then at the end of the day, Facebook made the acquisition. I think it was over $1 billion acquisition for Oculus. And it's interesting how Facebook's entire business model has seemed to completely have shifted towards this type of virtual reality, metaverse, really whatever you want to call it, just based off of this one idea. So really interesting. I'd recommend the book. It's like $17 if you're strapped for cash, and you know, if you don't want to shell out $17. If you go on Amazon, go into the used book section, go to the History of the Future by Blake Harris, History of the Future by Blake Harris. You could probably get it for $2, maybe $2 used off Amazon. Hey, Destructionist is here again. Oh, Destructionist. You know what was crazy? So after last night's live stream, I read all the comments. I read as many as I can. So supposedly last night on the live stream, ladies and gentlemen, we ran into a very, very notable and famous heavy metal musician. I had no idea we even were walking past them, but I'm blanking on the name. But supposedly Gregory said Destruction, as you pointed it out. I think of the metal band Slayer. Now, I've never heard of that band, but maybe some of you have. Has anybody heard of the band Slayer? Sherry is here. Good to see you, Sherry, the one and only War Walker. This is Howdy Tomcat. What's up, War Walker? We're on the Upper West Side tonight. Bagels and Walks, check your local library. Yeah, or that as well. Deborah, welcome. Tucson says happy Saturday from Arizona. Good to see you, Tucson. Roy S. says Slayer is a great band. Destructionist is Tom. Yes, we did. Kerry King from Slayer. My husband noticed him. Yeah, so I went back, and I think you're right. Now, I wasn't familiar with that particular person before I saw that comment, but I looked it up on Google Images, and yeah, it was him. That's awesome. So for all of our, I guess heavy metal would be the appropriate genre, if I'm not mistaken. For all of those fans, yeah, that was cool. You know, you never know who you're walking past. When you walk around the streets in New York City, you could be walking next to heavy metal musicians, famous investors. You never know. Artists, kind of cool. War Walker from the 305 says, what is on the itinerary for tonight? Not too much, War Walker. I think I'm going to take it a little bit easy tonight. You know, we're going to talk about some book recommendations. I picked up a book today. We're going to talk about some notable Fed presidents that came out with some very strong choice of words on Friday afternoon as it relates to setting the pace of monetary policy. So we'll talk about that. Deborah says, walked by John Kraske. I'm not sure who these people are, but I have to start paying more attention for sure. Hey, Matthew P is here. Says, hey, Tom, old chap. So check this out, everybody. You could see, well, I'm not sure if it'll come up on the stream, but if you look hard enough, you could see the 9/11 memorial floodlights. They're finally on. Last night they weren't on. FB says, hey, Tom, hope you're having a great Saturday night in New York City. Thank you, FB. Yes, Saturday night's a pretty busy Saturday night here. We are going to be headed downtown. I have to stop by the WeWork office, so I will be sure to take you guys along for that ride as well. Austin City Limits, good to see you. We're on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. You know, I've noticed every single restaurant that I've walked past tonight is absolutely packed, including this one, which is definitely... I forget the Upper West Side does not have that good internet connection. I think if you refresh the browser, I think we should be good. Called here, I forget. Theater, that is it. Every time we walk past the Beacon Theater, the internet, I think there's a dead zone right in between 74th and 75th Street. As you head down to 72nd Street, the main terminal here. O'clock, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to get access there, but we'll see. Hey, Techno Pink is here. What's up? Techno Pink is joining us from the Dominican Republic. So Techno Pink, we were just talking about you last night on the stream. We wanted your insight on the news on EY. Obviously, Techno Pink is our consulting friend who works at EY. And they have announced that they are going to be splitting their consulting business from their traditional auditing business in hopes to drive additional profitability and more revenue. So I believe the vote is now going to go to their more than 13,000 partners at EY. And should the vote be approved and all goes well, I believe EY is considering launching an IPO later on in 2023. I believe they've already hired Goldman Sachs as well as JP Morgan Chase to do a lot of the advisory services. Now, granted, all of those investment banking fees are only to be paid if the deal actually goes through. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hey, Charles D is here. Good to see you, Charles. Welcome. Trust you're well, Charles. Iris Lewis here. This is after the rain. It's a very good day, lots of cleaning. Yeah, it rained for 3 or 4 days here in New York, which is good. Mary Soul says Midtown in between 34th Street and 59th Street. You are the 73rd Street, Upper West Side. Yeah, so you're correct. So we started the stream off from the Upper West Side. Now, we had to do that because I had to go to the Barnes & Nobles on 81st Street and Broadway to pick up a book. And we usually start streaming at 8:30 at night. And I didn't have time to make it all the way back down to the office, which is 57th Street. So I just started recording now. So we are on our way back to Midtown. But good to see you, Mary Soul. Charles D says things are great. Tesla had a very good week, says Charles. Love that. Techno Pink says, yes, that is true. I worry about the branding impact on the split. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, Deloitte actually came out. So Deloitte, KPMG, the other members of the Big Four, as you could call it, they're probably going to start poaching a lot of the talent at EY, right? Because assuming, you know, the changes are going to be very cumbersome for the organization, maybe it's going to cause even potential animosity within the organization. So from KPMG and Deloitte's standpoint, they may use it as an opportunity to poach that very talented talent organization at EY. So I don't know, but at the end of the day, I do understand why they want to split, right? We saw this already happen back in the day with Accenture, because there could be a conflict of interest, right? If you think about, you know, if you're hired by EY, or if you hire EY to do your auditing business, that sort of blocks out the consulting team from selling them additional products and services and doing things like that, because it formulates sort of a conflict of interest. So I don't know. We were talking about it yesterday, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But they're gunning for a Q4 IPO in 2023. And once again, I believe they hired Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan to do a lot of the underwriting and stuff like that. So we'll see. GX72 says, Tom, can we get a quick glance of the surroundings? Sure. So this is West 69th Street and Broadway. So you're actually going to be able to see the one and only Lincoln Center coming up here in a minute, which should be quite nice. Hey, Mary Soul says, hey, thanks for reading my message. I live here in Midtown Manhattan, and seeing your videos is like walking in the street with you. Much blessings. Well, Mary Soul, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you're having a fantastic weekend too, Mary. Charles D says, that's interesting. EY is splitting off their consulting practice. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. You know, I will say this. A lot of the partners at EY are set to probably make a lot of money off of this. A lot. So congrats to them. Hopefully everything goes well, it goes through. Julia M says, love your show. Good to see you, Julia. Thank you for joining. You know, I kind of like walking on the Upper West Side of Manhattan a little bit better. It's a little bit more calming. Not as many horns blaring, not as many crazies. I like it. It's quite nice. Bagels and Walks, beautiful buildings on the Upper West Side. We're watching in the buildings. I want to copy that. Bagels and Walks. Yeah, if you go to, I would say, you know, in the 80s mostly, between Amsterdam and Columbus, the brownstones are really, really beautiful. All the original architecture of the New York City brownstones are fantastic. Now we're about to pass the Apple Store here. Hey, Long Island Ducks says, my daughter lives on the Upper West Side and her hood is quieter than mine. Yeah, the Upper West Side is a very desirable neighborhood, right? Especially, I would say, if you have children, maybe little kids. it's just a more of like a mellowed out type of vibe, as opposed to, you know, the craziness of Midtown where we always walk through. You know, I worked on the Upper West Side for many years on 83rd. And I think the thing that I like the most about the Upper West Side is because you're right on Central Park, but also if you kind of get tired of Central Park, that's all right. Just walk over to West End Avenue and you could be right at Riverside Park, which is also one of my favorite parks in the entire world, by the way. Riverside. This is the Apple Store here on the Upper West. Siva says, hello from India. Welcome to all of our Indian viewers. Good to see you. PB on the go says, hello Tom from Nebraska. Just recently saw your New York City walks on YouTube and enjoy your walks. I'm a banker that works with IRAs. Hey, that's awesome. PB on the go. Nebraska. I think you may be our first viewer from Nebraska. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So you work with IRAs. That's very nice. I have, I always say, in my main retirement account, which is like my IRA, right? I pretty much just have the entire thing indexed to the S&P, and I believe it's the last Tuesday of every month. I just have an automatic buy the broader index in my IRA. Because with the traditional IRA, it'll grow tax deferred. Obviously, you know, once you retire, you have to pay taxes once you take the money out, but at least it'll be able to grow and compound untouched from the IRS's greedy hands, I guess. But outside of that, I do run a long-short portfolio in Interactive Brokers, just a regular taxable brokerage account. But I'm also exploring other different tax strategies. Wow, you know what I never noticed, everybody? Check this out. This is West 66th Street, Broadway. But look all the way in the distance. That's 432 Park Avenue. I've actually never realized that. Seriously, I've never realized you could see 432 Park Avenue all the way to Billionaires Row from here. Maybe they took down a building? I don't know. I never really remember that. Maybe it's just, I haven't been up here in a while, but. Hey, Taxi Cab is here. What's up? It says, hey Tom, what Apple Store is a 10 out of 10? The Upper West Side, 5th Avenue at Grand Central. So my personal favorite is the Flagship, which is right at 59th Street and 5th Avenue. So that's the one that's directly adjacent from the very famous Plaza Hotel that you see in many of the movies. Hey, GN Workstation, thank you so much for the $10 donation. You are way too kind. It says, thank you for the live stream, Tom. GN Workstation, I appreciate you very, very much. Daryl is here from Chicago, Illinois. Good to see you, Daryl. So Daryl, speaking of Chicago, you know, oftentimes we'll talk about Citadel Securities, founded by Ken Griffin. He actually founded the quantitative hedge fund in his dorm room at Harvard. But I believe he just set the record for the most expensive real estate purchase in Florida. And if you look at the listing that he bought, it's almost like unbelievable. Like, I'm not even sure if I could utilize half the space that he has. It's almost like well, I guess it is considered an estate, I guess, right? Wow, look at this. So it appears that there's something going on here at Lincoln Center. This is the Juilliard School of Music. You know, I haven't seen an event going on here in quite some time, so this is actually kind of nice. Yeah, Gregory, 100 million bucks. Can you believe that? 100 million bucks on your primary residence. Now, I'm not sure if he's probably doing that for some sort of tax advantage. Obviously, with the homestead exemption in Florida, I believe it protects your primary residence from thoughts travel. Must be Alice Tooley Hall. I'm not sure. Oh, you're right. It is. Right here at Lincoln Center. So I think they filmed the CUNY, or the City University in New York, news station here. When I went to John Jay, I had a friend that was in the broadcasting journalism type of school, and he would work on some stuff right around here. It was actually kind of cool. They have a whole studio set up. Sabrina Fair, what's up? Happy to see you here. Happy Saturday. Tim is here, says hello from Pittsburgh. Love the live stream. So Tim, I want to talk about Pittsburgh for a little bit. Maybe on a later stream, but I'm actually very interested in Pittsburgh. So two of my best friends that I met during my college years are born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I think the suburbs of Pittsburgh over the long term is probably going to serve as pretty good investment opportunities for multifamily real estate. Because if you think about it, Pittsburgh is not too far away of a commute to New York City. I think there's going to be a lot of younger people as remote work continues to sweep the globe and the country by storm that are going to be looking for more affordable metropolitan areas or cities. And I think Pittsburgh may fit that bill. So I don't know, I'm keeping my eye on the Pittsburgh market. I'm not too educated about Pittsburgh in general, but two of my buddies are showing me the ropes. Anyway, so check this out. This is Lincoln Center now. Now, I'm not sure if you guys remember, about 3 weeks ago, we were doing a live stream from Lincoln Center where they had, I believe it was, I want to say one of the world's largest silent discos. Does anyone remember that? There was a huge disco ball right here. It was insane. I think that may have been actually more than 3 weeks ago now. How crazy time flies, but one of my favorite spots in the city is right here, Lincoln Center. The one and only Mighty Bull is here. Says, greetings everybody, what's up Mighty Bull? Hopefully you're having a fantastic start to the weekend. Ryan Royal is here. Says, we didn't come. Yeah, good. Ryan Royal. Says, I will be seeing the opera at the Met Opera in December. Well, that's going to be a phenomenal experience. I can guarantee you that. Here, I'll show you guys the fountain, but also, you know, now that the 9/11 memorial lights are on, you can see it over here. We may have to take a little bit of a walk down that way. But first, I actually have to stop by the office. So hopefully the stream doesn't conk out when I go in the office. Because again, I lost track of time. I was up on the Upper West Side for too long. Chris Beeman is here, says, hey Tom, what's up Chris? Thought Travel says, check out PJ Clark's across the street. So Thought Travel, I have a little bit of, I don't know if you're gonna like what I have to say. I'm not a big fan of PJ Clark's. So I think there's two notable overrated type of restaurant / burger joints, I'd say, in New York. I think one of them is PJ Clark's, which is right here. And then, again, this is just my personal opinion. But number two, it's so overrated, I forget the name. But I think if photos from around New York is in here, or any other New Yorkers, you could probably guess which particular burger place I'm talking about. It's on the Upper East Side, very expensive. Can anybody help me out here? There's a burger place that's very famous, beautiful full moon here, about a 9 out of 7, 7 out of 10. But there's a burger place on the Upper East Side, JG Mellon, I think. Is that what it's called? That one's not too good either, but that's just me. Maybe I'm just not a burger guy. Hey, Ralph Unreal says, never heard of PJ Clark. So it is in the lobby. I guess you can call it the lobby of the Empire Hotel right here. So I want to show you guys the beautiful chandeliers in here. So Lincoln Center is by far one of my favorite places in New York City. Not only the architecture on the buildings, but if you actually go inside Lincoln Center, one of the things that's so interesting about it is, number one, the artwork. The artwork on the wall is unbelievable, but the chandeliers also are quite nice. Bernie Williams, Tom, do you ever eat? Yeah, so Bernie, another reason why I was late tonight, I stopped by my friend's restaurant on the Upper West Side called Sen. So if anybody wants to visit or is gonna visit New York and you want a very good Thai food place, check out a restaurant called Sen Thai Comfort Food, so SENN. It is a fantastic, fantastic restaurant. Hey, Kevin from Buffalo's here. What's up, Kevin? This is Tom. The best burger in New York City was Chumley's in the Village. Unfortunately, it didn't make it due to the pandemic shutdown. Oh my God. Kevin, I've never heard of it. I'm gonna have to go look it up, but you know, as you said, I guess I won't have an opportunity to check it out because it closed down because of the pandemic, which sucks. Stefan, I think you may be correct. I don't think you're allowed to film inside Lincoln Center, but this is sort of like a public space outside, which is adjacent to the Juilliard School, which is one of the greatest, most famous music schools in the world. And if you look straight ahead through these lights over here, this is actually one of the New York Public Libraries too. I used to come here all the time during my college years. My college is actually 2 blocks over from Juilliard, the CUNY John Jay College of Criminal Justice. So usually they close the lawn at dusk, but it seems like it's still open. Maybe we'll have to go up there. Yeah, Rolf says, is that grass? So it is. So it's sort of like a little bit of a lawn area above the restaurant here. So this is a restaurant as well. Cindy Foley is here. Good to see you, Cindy. Yeah, Rolf says this is an interesting design. So the New York Public Library entrance is right here. I used to get a ton of studying done right here. And then you'll see the grass right across the street from the Juilliard School here. Lockjaw is here. Good to see you. Jersey Girl says, Tom, you have good taste. This is one of my faves. So this is the Vivian Theater. I'll try to show you guys. Obviously there's no show going on today, but very peaceful here too. Hey, Erin is here. What's up, Erin? Good to see you. Wow, check out the water here. It's almost like glass. Check it out. Hey, Charles Hong is here from DC. What's up, Charles? This is how was my Saturday? My Saturday was good. Charles, I spent the majority of my Saturday in the office, hanging out. But then I did go up to the Upper West Side. So for those of you who are just joining, I have a pretty interesting book recommendation. It is called The History of the Future by Blake J. Harris. And I think especially now it's important to do a quick refresh on this particular deal that happened. So usually on the channel, we'll talk about, you know, main events on Wall Street. I think one of the most notable acquisitions, and I think it's going to be even more prevalent as the years go on, is the acquisition of Oculus by Facebook at the time. And the story is just unbelievable. Now, I don't want to give it away to you guys. I know the story. It's an unbelievable story, but I think the book is important to read for two reasons, which I've explained earlier in the live stream. Number one, because nowadays it can seem like a lot of the news information is all doom and gloom, everything's a horror show. But this is a real American entrepreneurial success story, right? Oculus was literally created out of a trailer in California. So with persistence, hard work, grinding over time, you can create a product or a service that fundamentally changes the course of history, which is exactly what Palmer Luckey did. But I won't give too much away. And then if you want to sort of know the process and understand how other businesses acquire other businesses, so our M&A activity on Wall Street, I think it gives a very, very interesting detail of exactly how that process works. And there's a lot of people on the streams that maybe you're just graduating college, maybe you are in investment banking or wherever you work, or maybe you just want to brush up on M&A in general. I think this is a pretty good book to do it. I think this is a pretty good book to read. Now, I'm almost getting distracted here. I haven't been up here in like 5 years. They closed this lawn for the pandemic, and this thing is unreal. I can't even begin to tell you guys how beautiful this is up here. So if you're visiting New York, or even if you're from New York, please come up here. This is right at Lincoln Center. And you have a massive view, an unbelievable view, 10 out of 10 view of Billionaires Row. So you could see the very, very tall one right here is Central Park Tower. The one with the gold top is 220 Central Park South. And this building right here is actually the Deutsche Bank Tower. So we talked about this last night on the stream, how Deutsche Bank used to have their headquarters in Lower Manhattan, physically on Wall Street. I believe it was 90 Wall Street, but now they have migrated uptown to Columbus Circle, 59th Street, taking over the Time Warner Center. GX72 says, I like this better than the red steps at Times Square. I definitely do as well. And this is all real grass here, by the way. 40 Wall Street, copy that. 80 Wall Street is where I used to work. Taxi Cab says, hey Tom, have you ever seen Palmer Luckey's Time magazine cover? I have not. Can you put that in the Discord or email it to me? Hey, Mark says, I'm watching from Woodstock, Georgia. Love Georgia. Good to see all of our viewers from Georgia. But I think most importantly, everybody, tonight you could see the 9/11 memorial floodlights. Obviously, tomorrow is going to be the anniversary of the horrible terrorist attacks. And as I was sort of reflecting on it, I can't even believe that it was over 20 years ago now. Really just puts in perspective how just fast time goes by. It's insane. John Midnight says 420 from Cali. Good to see you, John. We're outside the Juilliard School tonight. Uncle Car Guy says, can you show the World Trade Center? So maybe we'll have time to do that tonight. Yesterday on the stream last night, we were down in Lower Manhattan for quite some time, but unfortunately they turned off the memorial lights, which I understand. Supposedly it could mess with the migration of the birds or something like that. That's why they turn them off. Charles Hong says, do you ever take a day off work? I don't know. I feel like, I guess technically yes. But like, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing work? I wouldn't know what to do. Hey, A is here with the $2 donation. Thank you, A. It says, to curb inflation, do rates need to be... Excuse me. So that's actually a pretty good thought there. So I know that there's a statistic that goes something like this, and it may not be the exact statistic. We'll wait till the FDNY passes. Big respect to the FDNY. But I think I was reading a statistic that anytime the CPI got above 7%, the only way that the Fed was able to kill inflation was to bring the Fed funds rate either on parity with the CPI print or higher. And I also think it's a good question because yesterday and last week we heard from Fed Chair Jerome Powell again, but also we heard from many, many other Fed presidents. And they sort of telegraphed exactly what they were going to do. I actually took some notes and I wrote down some of the notable... Oh, look at this. Looks like they're going to open another restaurant here. But I actually took some notes and wrote down a couple of the notable quotes. So we heard on Friday, I believe Friday at around noon, we heard from Fed Governor Christopher Waller. So more and more Fed officials came out backing larger interest rate hikes. And in a speech on Friday, Fed Governor Chris Waller suggested he would be in favor of larger interest rate hikes going forward. And he said, and I quote, "Looking ahead to our next meeting, I support another significant increase in the policy rate." He goes on to say, to get the policy rate to a setting that is clearly restricting demand. So I'll read that again. He says, to get the policy rate to a setting that is clearly restricting demand. Now, who does that sort of remind you of? Well, to me, as we talk about a particular hedge fund manager on Wall Street, Dan Tapiero. So Dan Tapiero got his start working under Stanley Druckenmiller, which is quite renowned as one of the greatest investors of all time. And Dan Tapiero posted this interesting Twitter thread a couple months ago that said the Fed is out here causing massive demand destruction, and he doesn't think the Fed should raise interest rates anymore. But if you listen to all the Fed presidents, including Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, they have to regain their credibility. Because what was the original verbiage and the signaling to the market? And I think you guys remember. The main sort of signal to the market was that, oh, inflation's going to be transitory. You don't have to worry about it. We don't have to change monetary policy at all or materially, because inflation is just going to come down. It's temporary. Well, that wasn't the case. And now they fear that if they see one or two CPI prints here that has inflation coming down a little bit, now that core CPI coming down a little bit, they think that could be too premature to say, okay, this is actually an emerging trend here. So I think they're going to continue to go till they break something. I think they have to do that. I think you're probably going to see them push over 4%. But I actually think that's the right thing to do. I actually disagree with many of the notable names on Wall Street where they think that the Fed is doing too much to raise interest rates which they do have a point, because here's the thing. When you raise interest rates, it takes a couple quarters here to see the material impacts of the rate hikes themselves, which I understand. But at the end of the day, the Federal Reserve's job is not to be a cheerleader of the stock market. It's to achieve price stability. And 8.5% inflation is not price stability. That's a disaster. So, A says, and would rates above CPI bankrupt the government? Yeah, so I've been hearing a lot of that stuff too. You know, that is a big debate. I don't know, to be honest. I don't think it would really ever get to that point. But I've been seeing a lot of let's just say the classic fear guys that they always parade around at these certain specific times on CNBC, saying that oh, the Fed can't raise rates at all because it's gonna bankrupt the government and it's gonna be Armageddon. I don't know if I buy that. It could be, but I don't think so. I mean, what do you think? I'll turn it over to you. What do you think that? Do you think that it'll bankrupt the government? McGillis has wired the bank's slamming mailbox with credit card offers. I received 5 in days. Banks are in trouble. Well, I mean, think about, as we talked about the financial earnings, right? A lot of their business has been cut in half, specifically the investment banking side of the house, right? Because think about what happened in 2021 when liquidity was flush in the entire market. We had, in 2021, I think there were more IPOs. I think it was a record year for initial public offerings in all these junk SPACs, or these special purpose acquisition companies. And right as the Federal Reserve started quantitative tightening, or QT, which is letting those treasuries and mortgage-backed securities roll off the balance sheet and raising interest rates, all of that IPO activity fell off of a cliff. I think IPO activity in 2022 is down 97%. So there's a lot of investment bankers out there that are like, oh my gosh, how come my bonus is 50% of what it was in 2021? Well, if you're an investment banker and you're working on IPOs, equity underwriting, or even an M&A, a lot of the M&A deal flow is down. Investment banks make money off of fee income. So if they're not bringing companies public, how are you generating fee income? Now, the traders, or the trading desks, are probably doing pretty well. But the bread and butter of a lot of these banks is the investment banking business, which is essentially fallen off a cliff in 2022. This is the Trump International Hotel and Tower. So I think any of the lights on the right side of the building are part of the hotel, and any of the lights on the left side of the building are actually the residences. So people actually own these particular units. Shad Smith says Schwab, etc. Doesn't charge trading fees. What do you mean? Could you? I'm not sure what you mean, Shad. I'm not sure what you mean. So Shad, there's different. I think. Oh, maybe you're getting confused. Like, so Charles Schwab is like a broker dealer, right? So when we're talking about like a Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, they have an investment banking division, right? So investment bankers, you could either be in mergers and acquisitions where you're hired to help companies acquire other companies, or you're hired to help companies sell themselves, and also bring companies public via like an IPO or a SPAC, right? So a SPAC is a little bit different from a traditional IPO, as they don't have to live up to some of the rules and regulations of a traditional IPO, and a SPAC stands for Special Purpose Acquisition Company. So on that end, what I'm trying to say when I mean the revenues are falling off there and profitability is falling off, if Goldman Sachs is working on a lot less deals, or about 97% less deals than last year, well, their investment banking revenue is going to be down. Speaking of Goldman Sachs, I believe the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blankfein, actually lives right here, 15 Central Park West. So in terms of trading, like at the traditional broker dealers, right? So if I log on to my Charles Schwab account, yes, that is correct. They won't charge me a said commission to transact that trade. And I think the reasons why they don't do that now is due to something called payment for order flow. And if you remember, oh wow, this is a really nice view of Billionaires Row here. And if you remember, during the pandemic, a lot of people who may have been a little bit novice or not really understanding market mechanics were up in arms saying, oh my gosh, payment for order flow is such a scam. Citadel Securities is in cahoots with the suits. I think they were using the terminology suits, which was a little bit weird. But what they don't understand is if there wasn't any payment for order flow, you wouldn't have these free trades. Okay, you would be paying $10 on the bid and the ask. So payment for order flow actually helps retail and makes markets more efficient, and actually they makes markets more liquid too. So essentially, let's say if you log on to your broker dealer and you want to buy a specific stock, very seldom does the actual broker dealer settle that trade. It gets routed to a market maker, which would be like a Citadel Securities, a Jump Trading, a 2 Sigma, something like that, where they process your order flow. And in return, they're paying, Charles Schwab, they're paying Robinhood for them sending that order flow. Does that make sense? So now we made it to Columbus Circle. This is 59th Street. This is by far one of my favorite locations in New York City. You have a beautiful view of all of Billionaires Row, so 157 Central Park Tower, as well as 220 Central Park South. Which, speaking of Citadel Securities, I believe Ken Griffin has an apartment in 220 Central Park South. Hey, Ed Cooper, this is Tom. You're in my neck of the woods. Lincoln Square, Lincoln Center, awesome. What's up, Ed? Hopefully you're having a good day tonight. So I do have to make a pit stop, everybody. I have to get my computer. So hopefully, hopefully the internet doesn't go out, or hopefully my key card still works. Sometimes they deactivate the key card around 9:30, so we'll see. Hey, Marjan Worldwide. Good to see you, Marjan. Ryan Royal, good to see you. Here, I'll show you guys the Deutsche Bank towers right here, formerly known as the Time Warner Centers. And it is also home to the Mandarin Oriental Hotel as well. Wow, check this out. This is I think it's technically a full moon tonight, everybody. Is it a full moon tonight? Hey, Stefan says, how is the security in the street? The securities are pretty good. The security is pretty good. I mean, I think the NYPD does a good job, regardless of what other people may think. There's always going to be crime. I think the city could do a little bit better job with securing the subways, I would say. If I had to make a fair and balanced criticism, I'd say the city could probably do a little bit better job with the security and the safety of our subway system. That's what I would say. I think that could be, I think that's a fair critique, a fair criticism. Hey, SCGT, this is full since last evening. Yeah, I think this is going to be the last full moon of the summer. Okay, so this is Broadway. We are headed down towards 57th Street. So we're about to pass 58th Street. A lot of people out tonight, which is good to see. I've noticed that ever since the colleges and universities are now back in session, there's a lot more people in the city. Did you guys notice that, especially last night as we were walking down past New York University? A lot of people, a lot of college students are now back. Wow, look at that, everybody. Beautiful full moon. Hey, Van Darkholm is here. This is happy mid-autumn. Thank you, Van. Appreciate it. Hey, Ryan is here. It says, hey, Tom and chat. Does anybody know what minute mark approximately the member of Slayer appeared in last night's stream? Yeah, so Ryan, I think it was 1 hour and 30 minutes. So if you go to last night's stream, if you look in the comments, I think Gregory actually posted the timestamp. But I didn't even know. We walked right past him. So I'm not too keen and too familiar on like a lot of the heavy metal rock stuff. But if you like it, that's awesome. But we passed the lead guitarist of Slayer. I believe they're a metal band, which is cool. I didn't even notice it was him, but you know, you never know who you're gonna walk past in New York. There's so many different, you know, notable figures and people out. It's cool. But if you guys are enjoying tonight's live stream so far, feel free to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you are new. We usually do these live streams about 5 days per week between New York City and Miami, Florida. So now we just made a left on 57th Street, so we are officially on Manhattan's Billionaires Row. In the distance, amongst the full moon, you could see 432 Park Avenue. And we are actually standing right outside of the very famous Central Park Tower. JP is here. Says, good evening, y'all. Good to see you. Ed Cooper's like, can I go with you to Florida? Sure. But Ed, I'd plan that during the winter months. Well, I didn't even notice this was the Art Students League of New York. Wow, if somebody has a really nice camera, they should come out to the corner of 7th Avenue and 57th Street. You're gonna get an amazing photo of 432 Park Avenue in the full moon amongst the clouds. It's amazing. This is the Brooklyn Diner. Hey, PB on the go. So I just hit the subscribe button. Cool stuff. Thank you for being here. Ooh, I'm so glad we came up this way. So if you look right across the street, adjacent to us, this is the very famous Carnegie Hall. Now, the bad news is there's all this scaffolding here. But if you notice, and I'm gonna show you guys in a minute, if you look at this side, this is exactly how the building looks without scaffolding. They sort of put like a tarp with what the actual building looks like. So I'll show you guys. But yeah, so the Carnegie Hall is going under immense renovation. I think it should be, all the scaffolding should be down in Q4 2023. But if you guys were on the live stream last night, the biggest bummer of them all, the very famous Federal Hall, which is right outside the New York Stock Exchange on Broad Street and Wall Street, that scaffolding is going to be covering Federal Hall for 10 years, unfortunately. So if you're a tourist and you're visiting Wall Street, I would even say one of the most notable attractions aside from the traditional stock exchange is Federal Hall. Obviously, that is where George Washington was inaugurated. And when I used to work in Lower Manhattan, I used to have my lunch right on those steps. And now we won't be able to sit on those steps for another 10 years. Hey, Gus says, hey, Tom, will you be doing walks in New York City during the winter time, or are you going to stay in Florida? Well, we usually spend about 50-50, so split the time 50-50. So I know I'll definitely be back in New York for the holidays, mainly, you know, because my family is here. I don't have any family in Florida. So, you know, to see my mom, my grandmother, brother, sister, you know what I mean? I'll be back for that. I would like to spend most of the time in Florida during the winter for obvious reasons, but... All right, so this is what Carnegie Hall looks like without the scaffolding. They put the sort of tarp over it. Siva. So we are streaming on an iPhone 13 mini. And for the microphone, we actually don't have a microphone tonight because I lost, well, I didn't lose it. The microphone is conked out on us, unfortunately. So we're without a mic. All right, but next up, everybody, if you look straight ahead, this is actually the building that kicked it all off. So this is the original building here that kicked off the trend of Billionaires Row in Manhattan. It is 157, so the address is 157 West 57th Street or 157. The opening on the left side, hey, good to see you. The opening on the left side is actually the residences, and the opening on the right side is actually the Park Hyatt Hotel. And the developer is the Extel Group. And I believe this building is home to the likes of Michael Dell, as well as very notable and prominent hedge fund manager of Pershing Square, Bill Ackman. It's also one of my personal favorite buildings here on Billionaires Row. I like the overall look of it, but if you keep going down one or two more buildings, you'll actually run into the Stairway to Heaven building, or 111 West 57th Street. And a member of the stream, a member of the chat, was actually one of the lead architects on this building. I just found that out on Twitter. He messaged me on Twitter, so that is fantastic. This is the Steinway building, as they call it. So actually one of our viewers was one of the architects of this building. It's fantastic. Hey, Greg Davis is here. What's up, Greg? All right, team, I do have to forewarn you about something. I gotta go into the office, so we may start to buffer and the stream may go dead. So I just gotta prepare you for that. So let me get my key card out. See, I was on the Upper West Side. I had to get my laptop. So we'll see if my key card still works. All right, let's hope we don't go out. Hey, SW is here. Good to see you.
8th floor.
Well, welcome home, everybody. Okay. Bear with me, I gotta get my computer. So quick intermission here, folks. Here, we have a piano here. I'll let you guys have some music while you listen. So enjoy the music while I get my laptop. Sorry about that, guys. Give me a second. I'm gonna get some water too. So we have coffee, we have water, whatever you want. It's a pretty nice WeWork. There's my laptop. So my laptop's horrible. It only works when it's plugged in. So I just got to do one thing and then we'll head back out. We'll continue on the stream. So another thing I wanted to talk about, everybody, tonight is share buybacks. So we have to be cognizant of the fact that the buyback tax goes into effect on January 1st, 2023. And it's expected to raise about $74 billion in federal revenue over a decade. So if we think about share buybacks, out of all the S&P 500 companies, we reached a new all-time record high in Q1. About $281 billion worth of buybacks. So just to put it in perspective, Apple alone would have had to pay about $900 million in taxes on their $87.7 billion buyback. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Just give me a second. We'll be out of here in no time. And I'll take you guys on a little walk around the office. Just give me a minute. Friends. Well, thank you guys so much for waiting. I apologize for the pit stop in the stream. This is where we have all like the milk and stuff like that for the coffee. All right, back to the city. L. So a cool thing about these WeWork offices is we have these little phone booths here that are totally soundproof. So you could be taking a call in here and nobody could hear anything that you're saying. Bird 2012 says, did you wash the cup? I'm gonna wash it tomorrow. I'm actually probably gonna use it tomorrow. All right, I'll see you guys on the other side.
Lobby.
Okay. And here we are. Right back out at West 57th Street at 6th and a half Avenue. So thank you guys for coming with me to do that. Now, I already told you before we started streaming, we started on the Upper West Side of Manhattan because I thought I had enough time to go all the way back to the Upper West Side, grab the book, and then come back to the office and then do the stream, so I left my laptop. So thank you for coming along for the ride. I'll give you guys one more view of Billionaires Row. So now you're looking at 157 as well as Central Park Tower. Hey, Corrupted Knowledge is here. Thank you for bringing us, Tom. No problem. Yeah, WeWorks is a pretty good deal. And you know, it's interesting, as we've been talking about Adam Neumann, the pandemic just may have saved his company. So if you want to know a very, very famous hotel in New York, if you look straight ahead, this is the Essex House. So the JW Marriott Essex House. It is an absolutely gorgeous hotel. I've stayed there myself. It's a more of an older style hotel though, okay? So it is a 5-star hotel. It's not modern, but I actually like the older style. It's actually quite nice. Ryan Royal says the office tour was great. Thank you, Ryan. So we are going to head all the way over to 5th Avenue. We are now on 6th, so we have to walk one more over. Lisa's here. Good to see you, Lisa. FredX. Happy Saturday, my friend. Hopefully you're having a good one. It's a beautiful night in the city. Not too hot, not too cold. People are out. Energy's good. Hey, Design Ideas. Thank you so much, my friend. Design Ideas is another amazing Saturday night. Thank you so much for the $10 donation. Very, very kind of you, Design Ideas. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. I hope you have a wonderful weekend as well. Lisa White 123 is here, says hey. So if you look all the way downtown, you could actually see the World Trade Center from here. It's right next to the Radio City Music Hall sign. You could actually see it all the way down there. We're gonna cross the street. We're gonna head over to 5th Avenue. You'll be able to see the flagship Apple store. Now, one of the things that we've been talking about on the streams is the introduction of the 1% excise tax on share buybacks. Okay, and I think this is going to be an important trend to follow. And the reason for that is because there's traditionally two main ways that companies can in turn return value to their shareholders. Now, number one, which everybody knows, is dividends, right? So you could, let's say if you're Microsoft, you make windfall profits, you want to show appreciation to your shareholders, well, then you could issue a dividend. Well, there's one problem with issuing dividends, and dividends are taxable. It's a nice American flag right here. So when you pay out a cash dividend to investors, the downside of that is it's a taxable event. So over the past, I'd say 10 years, share repurchase programs have becoming growingly and more growingly popular on Wall Street as a way for companies and corporate entities to return value to shareholders. So the reason why that returns value to shareholders is because if a company has, let's say, launches $1 billion buyback program, and they buy back $1 billion worth of stock, well, that reduces the overall circulating supply of shares in the marketplace, thus increasing the earnings per share. So that is one metric that we look for all the time. Should we make an investment in a particular company, we want to make sure that year over year, quarter over quarter, these businesses are increasing their EPS, or earnings per share. And one of the ways they can help do that is by buying back their own stock. Now, the reason why they do that, as opposed to dividends, most businesses do both, but share buybacks are not taxed, right? It's not a taxable event. So if you give, a cash dividend, you're gonna have to pay, your investors are gonna have to pay taxes on that. But buybacks, you traditionally do not have to. And it was interesting because when I was in college, I actually wrote a piece on this. I wrote a piece that the IRS is going to come after share buybacks. And at the end of the day, they are now. So, in all fairness, I don't think this will materially make a big impact and persuade companies one way or the other not to launch share buyback programs. I think it may a little bit, but it's sort of funny to look at the numbers, because if this 1% excise tax was in effect this year, Apple would have had to pay almost $1 billion, 900 million bucks. So I think the three biggest companies that buy back the most stock is Apple. Ooh, this is a beautiful Tesla here. Is Apple, Microsoft, and Alphabet, or Google. So I think it's a trend to watch. Hey, Brevard County Real Estate is here. Good to see you. Welcome. So Brevard County Real Estate, what do you think about Fed Chair Jerome Powell's additional comments at the Cato Institute? Jerome Powell sounded pretty hawkish, saying that there's no way that the Federal Reserve is going to pivot until they have successfully killed inflation 100%. So yourself being a real estate guy, what do you think that means for prices? You think we're in for some volatile times? GX72, so that was a Tesla Model X. Love it. Hey, Paulette, it's this beautiful view. I love this. Thanks for showing us Manhattan. You are doing a wonderful job here from Miami. Well, thank you so much for watching. We are on 5th Avenue right now. Thank you so much, Paulette. Hey, Greg's is talented, playing the piano and searching through the bag at the same time. What's up, Greg? OMYIN. This is one of the most beautiful city, but the scaffolding is so yeah, that's true. Brevard County Real Estate, they are guessing real estate and economies are cyclical. By the way, it's not by accident. I think that's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, I mean, the consensus that I'm picking up is that the Fed needs to maintain credibility, and they pretty much lost all credibility when they said inflation was going to be transitory. So if they see, one or two positive prints in the CPI showing inflation coming down a little bit, and then they pivot and then inflation rockets right back up, then all hell is going to break loose. Nobody's going to be able to trust the Fed, and that's definitely not price stability. look at that. Beautiful full moon. Hey, 0910 has left New York City yesterday. I trust you had a great time. Hope you had a good time. Yeah, I mean, David, I think people are pretty much split 50-50. You know, some people like Janet Yellen, some people don't. Some people like Fed Chair Jerome Powell, some people don't. You know, I think one of the biggest problems that I've had, I think it's maybe a teeny bit disingenuous just to dump on the Federal Reserve all the time, and I'm guilty of doing this too. And don't get me wrong, they do deserve their fair share of blame. But the fiscal side of the house does its number on inflation as well. You know, and it's not only the Democrats, it's Republicans too. I mean, we're spending so much money and we expect that it's not going to cause any inflationary pressures. Yeah, David's is not the Fed, but her. So David, so I was meaning to ask you, when are you starting your position at SpaceX? So David landed a position at SpaceX, which is incredible. Please keep us up to date on that, man. I'd love to know the inside scoop over there at SpaceX. Hey, we have our South Korean viewers joining. Good to see you. Andy, I trust your Sunday is going well. So Andy, a couple of my Korean friends were sending me some beautiful photos of the sunset over there in Osan. So hopefully you got to view the beautiful sunset over there as well. David, this is Monday. I got to be on site for the launch today. Been in safety training all week. Dude, how exciting is that, man? That's awesome, dude. Best Bets TV says, how's your weekend going? Weekend's going good. Weekend's going good. Took some time to sort of relax. I picked up this book. This book, History of the Future by Blake J. Harris. Now, I'm not going to give it away, but as I told the other viewers before everybody started piling in here, the story of Oculus and the acquisition by Facebook is it's an unbelievable story. And I think everybody needs to know it. I think everybody needs to read about it. And one of the reasons why I really want to dig down and read about it now is because a lot of the news cycle, you know, especially with everything going on in the world, is always so negative and laborious. And I tend to be a positive guy. So I think the story of Oculus just goes to show that, you know, if you are in America, regardless of who you are, what your background is, if you come here and you work hard and you hammer on a project long enough, you know, you could create $1 billion business. You know, I don't really want to give the whole story away because it's just so good. But Oculus was literally started out of a trailer. But maybe in 2 weeks when some of the viewers or you guys have had a chance to read it, or we'll sort of do a little bit of a deep dive into it. I think it's an amazing story. 안녕하세요. Jonan Tom Ieo. 어디에서 왔어요? That's really the only Korean I know. I'm trying to learn, but I'm a little bit rusty. So everybody, more good news, more good news. Look at how beautiful, absolutely gorgeous this church is here. This is East 53rd Street and 5th Avenue. It's one of my favorites. It's called St. Thomas Church. And the architecture on the facade is quite remarkable. I think you would all agree. Ah, kamsamnida. Appreciate that. Yeah, Andy, I'm getting a little bit better at my Korean. I think it's still, a work in progress, but I tend to spend, 30 minutes, 15 minutes a day, getting better. I think I'm getting better. It takes persistence over time. Persistence over time is what I like to tell myself. Is what I like to tell myself. Hey, Haas Manning is here again. So I agree, beautiful church. Good to see you, Haas. Happy Saturday to you. Sabrina Ferris is fabulous. Oh, White Plains, New York. White Plains is very nice. White Plains is... I believe you could take the Metro North out of Grand Central Station up there. So this is the Cartier Building on 5th Avenue. And I believe that this particular building has the best Christmas lights during the holidays. So I'll be sure to show you guys that. And then we have more scaffolding outside of the Nike store. AD says I can count to 15 in Korean. That's how I do my push-ups. That's good. It's a good way to practice. Denise says I have a brother named Oculus. Hey, Golden's Dawns is subscribed because I'm loving your stream. Well, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. And I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. So now we're coming up on St. Patrick's Cathedral, but I think if you had to ask me, I kind of like St. Thomas Church a little bit better. Maybe I shouldn't word it like that. I mean, I like them both, but I just think the architecture is maybe a little bit more unique on St. Thomas Church. Hey, Hellcat is here. Says, hey there. I'm new. Good to see you, Hellcat. Love the name, by the way. G Shep says, yeah, learning a new language is difficult. I've been trying to learn Chinese. Yeah, it's all about just like persistence over time and repetition. So, okay, now that we're on the topic of books, I want to recommend another extremely good book to everybody in the audience. And that particular book is called Atomic Habits. So most of you know that I am in sales. That is my profession. I sell software and other hardware to Fortune 500 companies. And this particular book, Atomic Habits, is probably essentially responsible for probably 90% of my success. So if you're trying to formulate a good habit and stick to it over time, pick up that book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. It is a killer book. Yeah, Haas Manning's like, it's a great book. I read it twice last year, or since last year. Yeah, if you want to build discipline and do things and train yourself to do things when you don't want to do them, you gotta read that book. So this is the main door here at St. Patrick's. Hey Cynthia, thank you for joining and have a fantastic night. Hey Barb, this is one of my good friends from high school. He's a senior cantor at St. Patrick's. Wow. That's so interesting. That's awesome. So cool. Another look at the full moon. Hey, James' Impact Theory is a good book. Let me, I'm gonna take that down. Impact Theory. Hellcats is noted. What was the book? So it's by James Clear. You know, if you guys follow me on Twitter, if you have Twitter, if you follow @WalksWallStreet, oftentimes I'll post those particular book recommendations. But yeah, I mean, as a salesperson, the number one way that I've found to be successful in sales is extreme discipline. I mean, you need to be so ridiculously disciplined where it's almost like maddening. It's like sick. Like where people start to comment like, dude, I don't understand how you keep the activity levels up so high. Like, I just don't, it needs to get to the point where other people like are in disbelief, like they're baffled at how consistent you are. And that book really teaches you how to train your brain mentally to freaking get up every day and hammer on the project, regardless of what it is. Because what you'll find out is, let's say if you're, you know, a rookie account executive, or even if you're in investment banking, right? Or really any career, what you notice is that right when you start out, things are really hard, right? Well, the reason why things are really hard when you just start out is because you're ignorant, right? I think everybody is ignorant at something at some point in their life. And the only way where you're going to become masterful of that particular activity or subject is if you do it repetitively over extremely long periods of time, right? So maybe you're making your first cold call, right? And you sound like an idiot. Well, you probably do sound like an idiot the first time you pick up the phone and you call somebody. But if you do it 100 times a day, 365 days, in perpetuity, forever, you're gonna be a rock star on the phone, right? If you're nervous presenting in front of an audience, you know, the first time you land an appointment with a client and you have to present in front of the board and everybody's just looking at you and they have their pen and paper ready, you know, you're probably gonna be shaking, you know, you may be stuttering and stumbling over your words. But if you just continue to push through and do it, the next time you have to present something in front of a board, it's gonna be like, you know, like shooting fairy dust. It's gonna be so easy, right? But the first year is so hard because your body and your mind is not geared towards success. It's geared towards surviving. And anytime you sort of feel in your gut that there's a little bit of, you know, uncertainty or anything, that's when you sort of want to quit on things. And when you quit, that's your body going into survival mode. But if you push through that enough times, I mean, man, you're gonna see how incredibly like wild how fast things are gonna take off. But it's tough, it's difficult, but that book is fantastic for learning about that. Really, really fantastic. Hey, Melissa 2087 says, so true. I used to be terrified on the phone. So I got jobs that involved calling / picking up the phone. Now I'm fine and I worry much less. Yeah, it's all about repetition. I think you're 100% right. Jay Sully says, what is the book again? It is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. You know, if you scan the QR code on your screen, I write a free investing newsletter called Behind the Street, where we cover, you know, not only the US equity markets, but emerging markets, fixed income, all that stuff. But on my last newsletter, if you punch in your email, I actually recommended, I have a book list, the Walks on Wall Street book list. So if you scan the QR code, punch in your email, you'll receive that for free. But if you go back into the archives, I believe I actually published my favorite books. So if you scan the QR code there, you'll also be able to receive it. But now we are headed towards Avenue of the Americas, 6th Avenue, or News Corporation building. And obviously, as we know, News Corp actually acquired Investors Business Daily, or IBD. I think it was about a $250 million acquisition. And IBD is William J. O'Neill's company. It was based in California. Hey Gus, as I heard somewhere that you have to be an expert at something, or in order to be an expert at something, you have to go through 10,000 hours of it. Yeah, I mean, it sounds about right. It definitely sounds about right. And the thing is, it takes so much repetition that's why, especially in I would say competitive careers like, tech sales or banking, they'll always follow the Pareto principle, right? So 20% of the people will be successful and 80% of the people will sort of just get by. And I think it's for that exact reason, I believe. Oh, it looks like, I've never tried this, but I actually may have to try this place, this udon noodle place. There's actually a very good noodle place in the East Village that I like quite a bit. Oh, James, holy crap. James says, have you read Den of Thieves? It's all about Wall Street. James, you literally read my mind, dude. That's scary. So James, I haven't read the book. One of my good buddies recommended it to me today. I'm gonna buy it. So, okay, I'll give you guys my fall and winter reading list.
Is that all right?
I'll give you guys my fall and winter reading list. Well, number one, it's this book. So History of the Future. That's number one. Obviously, you'll learn a lot about Oculus, but you'll also learn a lot about M&A. So the M&A business. So if you're looking into getting into, working in mergers and acquisitions, this is a really good book that details an actual deal. Number two is Den of Thieves. I haven't read that book, but I'm going to get it. I actually went to Barnes & Noble's today to get it. They didn't have it. They were out of it. So that's a bummer there. But then there's a third one that I'm blanking on the name. But I got to get it to you guys. That one is a really, really good book. All about the history of Wall Street. It's going to come to me. In a couple minutes, it's going to come to me. Hey, Carol Williams is here. Says good night, everybody from Antigua and Barbuda. Hey, very cool. Welcome, Carol. Good to see you. I'm trying to think of the name. Ooh, Andrea's Ace, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. I'm gonna tell you a quick story about Reminiscences. So I actually have the original print of Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. I think it's worth over $1,000. And I found it at the East Village book sale, at the East Village bookstore. Some guy came in from an estate sale in upstate New York. I think it was this very old banker or trader. And they had an original copy of Reminiscences, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, it's a book about, well, allegedly it's a book about Jesse Livermore. Pretty much is. But that's a fantastic book. Also, have you ever read Gerald Loeb's book? Gerald Loeb's book is also fantastic as well. But yeah, I have an original copy of Reminiscences. Yeah, man, that's a classic. Anybody who is, running a portfolio, or anybody, even if you just want to get started, you got to read that book. That's like a prerequisite. I think if you go work for Paul Tudor Jones, I think he gives you that book. Now, I'm not sure if that's true. I heard that. Maybe it's a rumor, but if you go work for Paul Tudor Jones hedge fund, I think that's the first assignment. He gives you a copy of Reminiscences. But here's my old office, everybody, the Marsh McLennan building. I worked here for many, many years. And in this building, they have a very famous quantitative hedge fund by the name of D.E. Shaw, or David E. Shaw and Co. And that is actually the first job Jeff Bezos had out of college. He was an analyst for D.E. Shaw. And when he went to start Amazon, I think I told the story a million times, but before Jeff Bezos started Amazon, he took his boss, which is David Shaw, for a walk in Central Park. He's like, hey, I have this really interesting idea where I want to sell books online. And David Shaw turns to Jeff Bezos and says, you know what, Jeff, that's a really good idea for somebody that doesn't already have a really high paying job. In other words, why do you want to go out and start your own business? You're making probably, $200,000, and back then, what was $200,000 back then? Probably like $700,000 now. Working at a very successful hedge fund in the city. But thankfully, Jeff Bezos did leave D.E. Shaw and went to start Amazon. So that's a plus. But yeah, 1166 Avenue of the Americas. I used to walk right in here every day. We'll actually go check it out. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams roughly 5 days a week. Yeah, Wayne McKay, dude. You know what, this is killing me. I can't remember the name of the book, but I have it written down, so I'm actually gonna go in my backpack and get it. But yeah, this is it. So you see D.E. Shaw right on the wall here. So we were on the first floor. I actually worked on the, well, technically it's the second floor, but all right, I'm gonna get you guys the name of the book. Bear with me a second. Okay, I got the book name. It's called The Great Game by John Gordon. So this is a must read. So one of my friends who I respect a lot, very successful person, he said, go out and read that book. So that is on the winter reading list. So once again, it is called The Great Game by John Gordon. So I will be ordering that off of Amazon. Yeah, so maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll create like a little book club. So I'll be reading those three over the course of the next couple months. Hey, 1990s, good to see ya. Hey, NMB 045, what's up? This is Tom. I've kept a note of all the books you've recommended over the last 10 months. Love watching your videos. Well, thank you, NMB 045. If you guys have any book recommendations, definitely give them to me. I always interested in different topics. Ed Cooper, Massapequa, South Shore, Long Island. Hey, El Sapos is Wells Fargo. So I think Wells Fargo was caught in a big scandal, opening accounts on customers' behalves when they didn't give them permission. Rachel says, I highly recommend the Bible. I've never heard of it. I'll have to check it out. Who's the author? Hey, Mora says hello from Argentina. Nice channel. Thank you for being here, Mora. Appreciate it. Hope all is well with you there. You know, I was looking at a list of global inflation rates. So China and Japan are actually dealing really, really well with inflation. We actually just got some numbers out of China not too long ago. I think last week. Inflation's under 3%. It's under 3% in Japan as well. But unfortunately, in the United States, it's at about 8.5%. And Argentina is really, really bad. So my heart goes out to everybody in Argentina. Unfortunately, there is record inflation there, above 50%. Oh my gosh, Duda says I would recommend Zero to IPO by Okta co-founder. Let me screenshot that. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, Okta is a cybersecurity that is in the IAM space, so the identity and access management space. You know, I may have some news for you. I may have some news for you, my friend. I think you sent me an email. If that's you, I think I'm gonna send you an email back. I have some news. Hey, Dan Zhang, what's up? Dan, happy Saturday, dude. Thank you for joining. We were just talking about the when Facebook acquired Oculus, we were talking about the incredible story of how that came about, the founder of Oculus. So this is 6th Avenue of the Americas, headed towards Bryant Park, 42nd Street. So one of the competitors to Okta is Ping Identity, and Orlando Bravo, who is the founder of Thoma Bravo, the very famous private equity firm, they actually just took Ping Identity private. Hey, Dan Zhang says, Tom, today is the Chinese Mid-Autumn Festival, which is the Chinese Thanksgiving, just celebrated with family and ate a bunch of mooncake. Hey, Dan, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I heard that earlier today through Action Kids live stream. I was watching that. I didn't know that, so happy, what is it called? Mid-Autumn Festival to you, my friend. Hopefully you enjoyed it with your family and your friends. Hope you had a great time. Maybe tomorrow I'll go to Chinatown during the day. I've never had one of those mooncakes. I want to try one. I'm sure if I just go to Chinatown, I could probably walk into any bakery and try one or buy one. Iris is like I talked about it 2 days ago. Yeah, so all of our Chinese viewers, hopefully you had a fantastic holiday today with your family and friends. I know there was a lot of festivities going on in Chinatown, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and maybe I'll have to try one. Dan Zhang says you could still buy those at the Chinese supermarket or any Chinese bakery. So Dan, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I think I'm gonna do that tomorrow then, just to try it. I've never had it, so. Hey, Disney Matt. This is good evening, Tom and chat. So Dan, that is the second most important holiday, second to the Lunar New Year. Is that correct? So the Lunar New Year is the like the major holiday, and then like the second major holiday is today. Hey Ramses, it was great to see the Empire State Building. The Empire State Building is one of my favorite buildings in the city. Dan says, yes, the Chinese New Year is the most important one, and then it's the Mid-Autumn Festival. Copy that. So this is the New Year's Eve ball where they drop it on Times Square. Dan, I think I already told you. I believe malatang, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is a Chinese soup that is extremely spicy. Now, my coworker, who is Taiwanese, introduced me to this type of food, and I'm almost addicted to it, dude. I always take a trip to Flushing and get the extremely spicy malatang. So if anybody's visiting New York, you gotta go to Flushing Main Street. There's so many amazing Chinese places. And not just Chinese places, a lot of just Asian cuisine in general is there too. Not just exclusive to Chinese food, but a lot of other different cuisines as well. Carol Williams says, what is the temperature there? It's probably about 75 degrees. It's not too bad. It's not too hot, not too humid. It's pretty decent weather, I'd say. Dan says, yeah, you got to be careful though. If those are super spicy food, you're going to develop a stomach problem long term. Ooh, yeah, that's true. Definitely don't want that. So I was on the Upper West Side of Manhattan today, and I had Thai food at my friend's Thai food restaurant, Sen Thai Comfort Food, on 82nd Street. I think Thai food is probably one of my favorite type of foods by far. I always see these guys with the light. I don't even know what is that? Somebody says he's gonna be watching any football tomorrow. I don't even know who's playing. I'm not a big football guy. But yeah, I think, so what, tomorrow is the first Sunday football, right? Sunday night football, the first one of the season. Oh, Dan says there's a lot of Thai food in Elmhurst, Queens. You know, Dan, it's funny, when I got my place in Miami, in North Miami Beach, which is close-ish to where I live. Maybe not exactly where I live, but close-ish, close enough. That is going to be, well, it's starting to be the first sort of like Koreatown / Chinatown in Miami. And there's actually some really good places there, right off of 169th Street, 172nd. So if anybody visits Miami, if you go near Sunny Isles Beach and then cross over, that is the, I guess, the unofficial, if you will, unofficial Miami, Chinatown, Koreatown. And it's actually pretty good. You know, obviously nothing like, you know, New York City, but, you know, for just starting, it's actually pretty good. They have some good spots. And it's all within walking distance from where I live, too. Hey, Stephen Gary. Says, hey, Tom, any gas stations in Manhattan? Never seen one. Yeah, so there's quite a few. However, they're all the way on West End, the West End or the east side of Manhattan. So, does anybody remember if you walk all the way to the Hudson Yards? So this was before the Hudson Yards development. This is right when I started college there. There actually used to be a drive-through McDonald's. Does anybody remember that? Maybe some of the New Yorkers in the chat, but right there all the way 34th Street near the Hudson Yards where it is now, it used to be one of the only drive-through McDonald's in the city. And there used to be a gas station there right on the corner. And I would walk up that way to school almost every day. And now the area is almost unrecognizable due to the major development of the Hudson Yards. Ah, somebody says, yep, I remember it. Those were good times, man. I kind of miss those times when it was more not as built up over there. If you know what I mean. Maybe I'm not sort of explaining myself right, but Disney Matt says, hey Tom, what do you think of the Apple's new lineup? Yeah, so we were talking about that a little bit yesterday. I don't think it's material enough to move the stock, but supposedly there is the feature where you technically don't need a gimbal, like it's pretty good stabilization, but the only problem is that may work on the regular camera, but we're actually streaming through Prism live stream, so through a streaming service. So what's probably going to happen is the developers are probably going to have to change the app to run in accordance with the software. I think there's a lot of stuff that has to happen on the back end. So I'm not sure if, I don't know. I'm tempted to try it, but I just don't know. I just don't buy it yet. I'll wait for somebody to do like a review, a live streaming review without a gimbal. But I think you actually have to go into the back end and do a lot of stuff. So the developers at Streamlabs or Prism will probably have a lot of work on their hands, but I don't know. I didn't really see any other material changes. What about you guys? I know now you're able to use your, I know now that you're able to use your iPhone as your webcam. Does anybody do that, by the way? Does anybody use the camera of your iPhone as your web camera to take like conference calls or anything like that? So we're coming up on the Empire State Building. You guys will be able to see one of my favorite views here. But if you guys have enjoyed the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams about 5 days per week between New York City and Miami, and we start streaming at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we'd love to have you here. So feel free to hit that subscribe button as we are coming up on 34th Street. So you'll be able to see Herald Square, the very famous Empire State Building, as well as Macy's. And tomorrow is Sunday night, so we will be doing our much anticipated Markets a Look Ahead live stream, where we'll be covering all of the up and coming events on Wall Street, from corporate earnings to Fed announcements. So you don't want to miss that. But what do you guys think about this? I think this is probably like a 10 out of 10, 10, maybe 9, 7 to 10 out of 10 view. What do you guys think? You know, I'm digging the Empire State Building tonight. The classic white, looking beautiful. Hey, Rachel, thank you so much. Stephanie is here. Says I normally use Zoom on my iPhone or Google Meet. So has anybody else used the application called Blue Jeans? So I believe Blue Jeans is a competitor of like Microsoft Teams, but I think it's owned by Verizon. I think actually Verizon acquired the company. But I think that particular application is the most cumbersome. So I actually ran into Verizon Blue Jeans. I had a conference call earlier in the week. And you guys know how I feel about Cisco WebEx. I can't stand that thing. But I think Blue Jeans now takes the cake of hatred software. So I think my list of hated software is number 1, Blue Jeans by Verizon, and then number 2, Cisco WebEx. I'm not sure how it's even possible that WebEx could have been dethroned, but they did outdo themselves. Oh, Disney Matt says I thought Blue Jeans was owned by Adobe. I could have sworn that Verizon bought them. I could be wrong. You could be right. Maybe you are right. I think you actually may be right. But for some reason, I don't know why I have Verizon in my head. Oh, Rob Herman says Verizon does own Blue Jeans and I hate it. Yeah, I knew it was Verizon, but yeah, I can't stand it either. I had to give a presentation and it went, let's just say it didn't go so well. You know, not to get into a whole big debate, but I actually think Teams is quite operational, quite nice. Especially that it comes free in the 365 suite, so. You know, I think this was, you know, potential bear thesis for Slack. You know, why should you pay for Slack when, you know, especially if you're a Microsoft shop and you get it for free. Disney Matt says, no, you are right. It is Verizon. You know, there's almost so many of these, it's like, it's hard to keep track, right? It's like, oh, I'll send you a Zoom meeting. I'll send you a Teams meeting. Now, the only critique I have, and let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the chat. My only critique with Zoom is I think it has terrible UI in the case that you have to punch in the meeting code manually. I hate that because I never have that Zoom application downloaded. So I constantly have to flip back and forth between my email and then the browser to do it. That's my only criticism with Zoom. I can't stand that. Oh, Dan, that's funny. So Dan says I helped my dad set up Zoom and then realized his company uses Teams. What do you guys think about this view here? Disney Matt's Zoom seems to be outdated, to be fair. Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is Kathy Wood over at ARK Invest continues to buy this thing. You know, we always talk about on the streams the dangers of averaging down. You never, ever want to average down on an investment. That is rule number 1. You know, one of my good friends, Jim Ropel, that runs Ropel Capital Management, he did a study of past and previous, you know, true market leaders. And there's only a 2.5% probability that former stocks that were leading in the last bull market will then emerge and go on to be the new true market leaders in the new bull market. So all of these very high beta SaaS or software as a service companies that have been getting clocked, these things will probably, number one, either never reach new all-time highs again, or number two, just go out of business. So that's been my sort of hesitancy on this market, is to say, look, if you look at the new merchandise there's only like 10 names, right, across all the sectors that look any good, that are trading near 52-week highs, that are setting up at a decent sized bases. It's just the market is very thin, and that's very uncharacteristic of a new bull market. Oh, Dan Zhang says, do people still use Skype? Man, I haven't seen Skype I haven't used Skype in years. Iris Lou says, we use WeChat. Carol Williams says, Zoom is widely used here in Antigua and Barbuda. Sherry says, Nancy Pelosi's daughter is an executive at Zoom per the SEC. Wow, I didn't know that.